time. So I guess it is recording, so we'll see what goes on with it. So anyway, I'm Dr. DeMullen. I'm your professor of record for this class. So I want to have this, number one, to kind of give you an idea of who I am and where I'm coming from in teaching stats. I've taught stats, I guess, oh my God, for forever, I think. It seems like forever. I enjoy teaching it. I mean, I get excited for every class now than I did with my very first one at when I was at Arkansas State and University of Missouri at Columbia and University of Tennessee and University of Memphis. So I enjoy, that type of class interaction and watching people hit the click point. And a very brief, I guess, story while people are coming on. In my first life, I was a principal or an elementary school teacher, a principal, and a district superintendent. And I was that before I was 28 years old. And I had a mentor. And if you listen to that little 3-minute blurb that I put up there when I was addressing the students, it kind of give you an idea of all the way down the line of how this mentor pushed and prodded all the way through. But what I didn't tell you was when I was at Mississippi State, the first class I had to take was statistics, or one of the first classes. And the department chair said that nobody in the department had ever gotten an A out of this guy. And the guy that taught it was yes, the guy that taught it was Ed Syke. And nobody in the educational leadership department ever got an A. And I told him, so I'm going to get an A. So when I went in, the first 3 grades that I got was a C, D, and a C. And I went, holy Chivanka, something's going on here. So I went in and talked to the prof, and I said, I don't consider myself stupid, but something's just not making sense. So he got on his little calculator, he did this, 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 and this. He said, well, if you do all this stuff, you can get a B. And I said, I don't want a B, I want an A. And he goes, that's your problem. You're focusing too much on the grade and not enough on the content. Mm-hmm. And so I told him, I said, well, don't tell me what I'm making unless I'm failing, which at that time a C was failing in doctoral school. So his philosophy was the average of all the tests or the 4-hour killer final exam, whichever was greater. So when I went into the final exam, he handed the test out, and I looked at it, and I started going through it, and I said, wow, I know all this stuff. Well, anyway, I got a 92 on the final, which I got an A for the course. I took him for Stat 1, Stat 2, Stat 3, Research 1, Research 2, Research 3. Everything started to fall into place, and it changed my whole career because I was getting a doctorate to be a superintendent of a larger school. Now I went into higher ed, and it set the foundation, absolutely set the foundation for everything and all the successes that I've done, not only in education, but in business as well. So in business, I went through the Six Sigma Black Belt, scenario. So the point being of all this is that stats is difficult. I'm not going to pull any punches. It's difficult to understand until that click point hits. And the click point is that what I say and what you understand are the same thing. And that only comes with time. You've got to spend the time on the stuff. If you look at it, turn the assignment in on Sunday and then don't look at it until Thursday, you're not going to do well in the class because it's not going to click. You're not going to do anything because the assignments are going to be such that you're just not going to pick up on it. It's not going to start clicking. And over the years that I've taught this, what I've understood is that those people who spend the time, and some of them spend a lot of time together on these, on stats, and sometimes it takes it because there are 3 types of people in statistics. Those that the material clicks really early, those that have the click point a little bit later in the term, and those that it never clicks. I mean, stats is far above their ability to understand what's happening, and it's the foundation, the basis for everything that's happening in research. So please understand that there is a time scenario that's associated with success in statistics. So and if you've read some of the things, it is a foreign language to learn. You're going to learn a foreign language, and that's why I call it Stat Nis, because it is something that's totally different from your repertoire. on a daily basis. So with that, I want to give this, and I want to give you some pointers on how to be successful in the class, because it's absolutely critical. I spend a lot of time, it may not look at it, but I spend a lot of time putting things together to try to make it easier for you to understand. And that begins with the announcements. Read the announcements in detail. Don't skim through them. Print them out, look at them. I bolded, highlighted everything you need to know and understand on every assignment, and it explains it. So do not skim through the announcements that I give, but read them in detail, because it will explain what you need to do. All right. The second thing is the template. You need to use the template that I provide each and every week. Now, some weeks there won't be a template. But for the most part, I think like 7 out of 10 weeks, there is a template that's going to be given. And the reason I give the template is because in that, wherever you see a yellow blank, you need a calculation. You need a number. And if you're using Google Chrome, the university says if you're using anything outside of a PC or a tabletop using Google Chrome, you're going to miss the word, you're going to miss the Excel documents, because Google Chrome doesn't have those things. So you need to figure out how to do a PC, or figure out how to do the template exactly how it's done, because in the last term, and I think it's week 2 or week 3, I forget which one, there's a table that goes in there, and if you don't use a template, there's usually 3 or 4 that turn in the assignment that's given on there, but they don't look at the template, and the template has it all marked out of what you have to answer, and so they forget the table. Well, that's 20 points right there. So people who don't use the template are the ones that are turning in blank areas for the assignments. And I can't stress enough that read the announcements and use the template. I'm gonna try to attach them both as a Word and a PDF. But the Excel, there's nothing I can do. Well, I may be able to attach the Excel in PDF, but I don't know if Google Chrome takes PDF or whatever it is. So, but whatever it is, however the template looks, that's what you need to send for the assignment. Okay, does everybody understand that? Shake your head. Yes, no, puppy dog head. Okay. It makes it a lot easier, because where there's a yellow blank on the template, you need to have a figure in there, because that's what's going to be graded. There is no rubric. The only rubrics that's going to be used will be week 1 and week 10. And that's because you have a written assignment in week 1, you have a PowerPoint in week 10. Everything else, the calculations, everything do not fall into the rubric. And I will put how much each of those yellow blocks are worth on there. So for 30 blocks, you divide it into 100, and each block is, each answer is worth 3.3 points. All right. So that's how it's figured. It's very difficult to put a rubric in there simply because the calculations are so wide range and the whole bit. And trust me, it's to your advantage that you don't have a rubric, because it gives me some latitude on this. So please make sure you read in detail the announcements. Print them out, put them in your portfolio, and use the template that's there. The third thing is the discussions. This is where you make your points. So don't slack on the discussions. I gave an announcement on what's expected in a discussion. It's a very detailed discussion of the topic, along with references. So if you're not including references, you're missing out on points, because at this level, everything you do is going to require references. So please make sure that you include references in your discussion, and 2 substantive response posts. So if you're writing 1 or 2 sentences for a response, it's not going to cut it. This is doctoral level stuff now. Okay, so it's expected that you're responding in a very professional professional response at this level. So please make sure that the discussions those are where you're going to get the points. Actually, weeks 1 through 4 are where you're going to need to make the points. Those are, fairly straightforward assignments and dealing with certain things that are become familiar. Week 5 is we hit probability. That kind of throws people into a tizzy. 6 and 7 are not too bad. They deal with z-scores and hypothesis testing. So those aren't too bad on the assignments. 8 and 9, you actually put these things in practice in conducting a z-test, a t-test, and week 9 you do a correlation. So weeks 1 through 4 is where you need to accumulate your points. Discussions all the way through is where you need to make your points as well. You might want to start a portfolio because I send to you from time to time things that will help you as you go through your doctoral journey. Next thing I'm going to send is Thinking Like a Scholar versus Thinking Like a Doctoral Student. There is a difference, okay? There's a difference of thinking like a doctoral student and thinking like a scholar. And so I'm going to send that. Those things that you put into your portfolio, you can look at as you go through this journey. This class is actually the beginning of your journey. All the other stuff you wrote papers for, you've done some stuff, you did this and that. This is, this begins the calculation phase for research and understanding how this research is done, both in a quantitative and qualitative measure. Then there's this thing of professional ethics. I know that through the course, through the term, over the years, the practice has been there are students that it just doesn't click. They get frustrated. They're starting to pull C's, and they start blaming the course, the instructor, the school, God, bicycles, cars, trucks, whatever they want to blame. And it's just the nature of what the course is. But at this level, there's a professional integrity that needs to be maintained. Send me an email, be professional. I will send it back to you in a professional manner. Matter of fact, I operate by what I designed for a company. It's called the CARE principles, capital C-A-R-E, and it's courtesy, appreciation, respect, and encouragement. So those are the things that I try to operate each day by. So I treat each person with courtesy. I appreciate all the hard work that people do in this class because it is one of those things that go out in left field and disrupts life, for 10 weeks. Respect. I respect everybody's opinions and so forth, and who they are, and I give and I will give encouragement all the way through. Just to let you know, I had one student last term. It was her third time taking stats, and she made it, and I was so proud of her because she didn't give up. Those are the things. Those are the success stories that come out of all of this. But there are 3 components that you must have along your dissertation journey, and that's focus, motivation, and momentum. So your focus is you've got to have downtime where you're uninterrupted during your study times, during your dissertation or whatever. Motivation is you've got to find something that's going to motivate you, a topic that's going to motivate you all the way through. And momentum, you've got to do stuff each and every day. So in stats, you've got to keep your focus, you got to keep your motivation, even though you may not get the perfect 100 on every assignment because it ain't going to happen. I can tell you that it's just not going to happen. Maybe an assignment or 2, but throughout, on an average, it's not going to happen. And momentum. So you've got to do something each and every day. You have to look at the stuff. You have to watch the videos. Read the accompanying chapters and so forth. But something has to be done each and every day, because if you don't, then the 3 negatives hit, and I call it Fat City. It's frustration, anxiety, and tension. So that's what happens in stats a lot of time is people get frustrated. They have too much anxiety and the tension hits, and then they start writing things that they later regret. So there is a professional set of ethics that goes along with this degree that needs to be understood and put forth. So other than that, I will be sending out a lot of different things. Usually I try to, people turn in things on Sunday. I try to grade as much as I can on Sunday. And then finish out the grading on Monday. But I also understand too that I have until Wednesday to put up a grade. So don't send me an email say Wednesday saying you haven't graded my assignment. What's the deal? And I get that all the time. There's always one or two in a class that wants it graded. And I'll send to it, say, look, I need your assignment. It's late. And they'll send it to me, and then 12 hours later they go, why isn't it graded? And I'm going, oh my gosh. You're late turning it in, all of a sudden you want it graded 12 hours later. No, Dean, thanks for playing anyway. It doesn't happen that way. But this is a course, as I mentioned in a lot of it, it's unlike any course you've ever taken. So if your focus is on trying to maintain your 4.0, it's on the wrong thing. I can tell you that there's a good number of A's that come out of the class. There's a number of B's. And last term I had a good number of A's and a few B's along the line, but I had more C's than I've had, and a few F's. And the reason people got F's is because they quit doing something in week 5 or 6 and never turned in anything. So keep your focus on the content. Focus on the announcements. Use the templates. The other big thing that I found in success is that people form study groups, and they get together a couple of times a week and on a phone conference or even a Zoom. I mean, you use Zoom fairly easily on this and talk about the assignments and talk about things and discuss. And I can tell you that when I took stats at Mississippi State, we had a 6-person study group. And usually one person in a group understood what the prof is saying in that lecture. So that helps. It gives you that support, builds that collegiality too. Also, please use the chat room or coffee chat, whatever it is. Even if you know what you're doing, there are people in there that probably don't. And I encourage that if you don't understand it, go to the coffee chat. And as I put in there, I think, and it's not that I'm trying to negate the duties of this, but I tell you, I can get inundated with 150 emails by people saying, I don't understand, I don't understand, I don't understand, I don't understand. And I just don't have the time every day to answer 15, 20 students on they don't understand. So use the coffee chat. If you know how to do it, do the assignment. Look in the coffee chat to make sure to see if there's someone that doesn't understand it, and help them along. Don't give them the answers. Don't say, here's what I got, but show them the process. Show them the thinking and the thought process, because each week builds upon the preceding week. So as we go through this, the 10 weeks, hopefully you'll see that everything is starting to move sequentially all the way through. I designed the course 5 years ago, modified it a little bit. It received an excellent star rating from the accreditation thing. I went down to Dallas. I filmed the class, teaching the class. I tried to do a lot of things to make life easier. Sometime tomorrow, I'm going to attach in the announcements section the entire ebook for stats. So that will cover everything in Stat 1, and also a lot of things you're going to be doing in the quantitative methods. So you can see things in a little more detail with the book. I can do that because I'm the author of it, and it's an electronic book, so therefore it's mine. So I can attach it. It's about 335 pages or something like that. But that was the book that this course was built from. So this goes in a little more detail that might help you in the long run to probably get a better understanding as we go through this. So we have about 10 minutes, so I'm going to try to open it up to questions. If you can just go ahead and punch through. Let's see, can you daily, let's see, where's your son? I just walked across Mississippi. To reduce background noise, can you clarify the due dates for the discussion? Due dates for the main post is due Thursday, okay, and the response posts are due Sunday. That's the way I do it. I mean, that's so if you I don't grade fully until Monday. So if you only have one response post on Sunday, I won't grade it until Monday, because after that it's it'll be late. So that's how it goes. All right. So anybody have any questions as we go through this?
Yeah, I got a question.
Go for it.
In today's assignment, or this week's assignment, we had to calculate standard deviation, and I used the method that you showed us in your presentation. But in the Excel that I have, there's like 5 different standard deviations. You asked for sample deviation. Any more insight into which one I should actually use?
Most of the Excel programs will default to the sample, and I think I put that in one of the announcements. If not, the default, when you get up to the click on the Excel, and I don't have it in front of me, but when you click on the box of doing a statistical application, what you're looking for is one that says SD, and it usually has population, and the other is SD sample. So virtually everything we're going to use will be a sample. Okay. Sample standard deviation and sample mean. There's no difference in the formula for a mean, regardless of whether it's a sample or population. But in a standard deviation, basically the only difference between the two is the divisor. And for a population, the sole divisor is n, but in a sample, it's n-1. So it's going to be different. So you use the sample standard deviation in the Excel, and if you're going to use a formula or another program, just make sure it's a sample standard deviation for. And same thing with variance too. Okay, so the variance and the standard deviation have the same formulas. The only difference is once you compute the variance to find standard deviation, you're taking the square root of the variance, and that gives you the standard deviation. So.
Will there be a portion of this course in which these formulas are actually explained to us?
They'll be explained in the book that I'm going to put on there.
Okay. And the book that you're going to upload, is that part of our weekly readings, or do we just refer to it as needed?
It's going to be a reference. Okay. So you can go to the chapter that we're on and you can read it, and it'll go into a little more detail, but it'll show the formula. Okay, on everything, how it's used. And that's the reason why I wrote the book. I first taught stats at Arkansas State when I was using a stat book from a psychology person, and the students would come in and said, "Oh, we don't understand what this guy said." And I said, "Well, this is all that he's saying." And so the thing was, "Why didn't you just say it?" And I said, "Because he's a psychologist writing it for other psychologists. He's not writing for students." So what I did was after I taught the class, I went back to my office and I wrote the chapter. So by the end of the term, I had the makings of the book, which now is the ones in publication. So this one is written for students. So, all right, any more questions? We have about 6 minutes. Oh my gosh, no questions from the first week?
I have a question.
Yes.
So with respect to those lovely 25 symbols that we need to commit to memory and knowing when we see them, what strategy do you recommend to help get all those in? I mean, because some of them I actually do know because, yeah, we kind of learned those in elementary school. But some of the other ones, symbolically speaking, are like, no, I've not seen this before.
Yep. Welcome to stats. There's a lot of different symbols that we're going to be using. Also, when we get into a part, you need to use a symbol. So you're going to figure out how to do that on Word. Word is very simple. You just go over to the far right, hit symbols, and it'll tell you. So when it says this equals that, you put the equal sign. You don't write equal. And same thing with not equal. So you need to put the signs in there because none of that's going to be acceptable in your concept paper or your dissertation. So you're going to have to learn the appropriate statistical symbols. Like H sub O is a null hypothesis and H sub A is an alternative hypothesis. And there's a symbol for standard deviation, symbol for variance. There's a sample and population. So you have to just know the different symbols. Population mean is kind of like a funky little U, and the sample mean is an X bar. So those are things that they should just come to you as you go through there. The alpha level looks like a little funky fish. So, you know, little fish things that you get in a little snack.
Yeah,
so you look at that, it's kind of like, yeah, it's kind of like how you draw an alpha level when we start talking about it. So, you know, they're all Greek. Okay, everything's in there is Greek. Yeah.
So that works for me because I'm in a sorority, so I know about those Greek letters.
Yeah. So I mean, so we're looking at. I just got a thing up says it's going to end in a few minutes. So, yeah, I have taped this. I will put this up on the announcements. If you're going to look at it again. So always keep going until it just shuts down totally. Let's see. Thank you for taking time to provide something that helps you. Yeah, that's one of the things I wanted to do is help ease the anxiety that, you know, it's not the, you know, one of the components that says, oh, damn, it's torpedoes and full steam ahead. You know, that came from that movie. It's a little bit different, you know, as you look through where you are and where you're going to end up. It's going to be light years ahead for a lot of people. And, you know, that's the gratification that I get out of all of this is that when I go down and I start looking and I see, you know, the A's, B's, B's, you know, those are the success stories. The ones that are the C's and the D's and the F's, you know, there's a lot of issues that enter into why that happens. And it's usually because they're not following directions. They're not reading what I'm writing in the comments and not going back and try to figure out what they did wrong. Because, again, every week builds upon the previous week. And, you know, that's what's critical to understand all of this. And as you go through, I think, you know, there might be a repetition in a couple of things, like when you start building graphs. I think week 2 we're in graphs. And you have to, you know, discern between a histogram and a pie chart. The one that's going to, you know, it's going to take a little more is a box of whiskers. Even though it's not used very much, you still need to understand how it's done. But, you know, I provide Excel shots on this, on how to, there are actually YouTube videos on how to construct each and every one of these things. So that's why it takes the time to look on how to do this. So again, this has been painstaking over the years, putting this together to make it to where people can understand it, because I remember, you know, I don't want people to go through what I did, which is clearing the kitchen table 4 or 5 times before the, you know, it finally sunk in. And, you know, when you clear the kitchen table, all that has to do is you have to pick everything back up, put it back on the table. And that just wastes time. So a lot of times, if you don't understand it, you just need to walk away, you know, go outside, take a walk, and come back and you know, redo the video. The thing that a lot of people don't do is they don't go back and they rewatch the video. It's too much time. You know, it depends on what you want out of the course. I mean, if you want to understand, there are people that, as my son's chairman told him, said there are people who take a class to get an A, and there are people who take a class to understand it. And, you know, yeah, I imagine people can try to do stuff to get an A out of this, but if they get an A and they don't understand it, then, you know, all they have is an A. Because when it comes time to write a dissertation, you're still no better than what you were, you know, a long time ago. And, you know, the thing that I want to get across is that I want you to be able to understand not only, you know, the statistical concept, but why you're doing this, how you're doing it, and the rationale for doing it. Because we start having to pick a statistical procedure to analyze data in a quantitative sense, or if you're going to figure out interviews and surveys and so forth in a qualitative sense, you still have to have a good a background on what the entire process is. There is research protocol. And so the sooner you understand what the research protocol is, the better off you're going to be down the road. It makes life a whole lot easier. So, all right, I think we have about 4 or 5 more minutes. So any more questions as we go through this?
Dr. Don, I saw something on the syllabus that talked about the benchmark exam. Can you explain a little bit about that, please?
Yeah, if we get cut off, I have references to it all the time. But in week 10, you have the benchmark and you have the final exam. Benchmark is a compilation of your first research course and this course. I have a study guide for it that I will send out probably in week 8, and that will help you prepare for the benchmark. You have three times or 3 chances to score 80% on the benchmark. And that's what you got to have to, as you enter into your candidacy, is you got to have your passing of the benchmark. It does not affect your grade. Okay, the benchmark is a certificate that you need. If you don't pass it in this class, that's fine. All you do is, sign up for another class. It doesn't cost you anything. You just keep taking it until you do. So that's the benchmark. The final, you got 1 shot at it. And I will talk more and more about that, because this whole thing, I had one in week 7 that took the final exam one time, and I said, why? And failed it. I said, why did you take it in week 7? There's stuff on the final exam we covered in week 8 and week 9. And he said, I don't know, I just took it. Well, there's nothing I can do about it, so you took it and you failed it. So don't take any of these early. Okay. That's why it's called a final exam. you take it when the course ends. So, but anyway, I'll talk more about the benchmark and the final. Benchmark doesn't affect the grade. The final does. It's benchmark and the final timed exams. You have the rest of your life to do it. So once you get on it, it takes. But if you leave it for 15 minutes, it'll shut down. So that's the thing. Once you start on it, you've got to take it. You've got till forever to take it, as long as you're punching something. But if you go away and get sidetracked or whatever, 15 minutes, and it shuts down and it records whatever grade that you have. So you don't want to do that on the final exam. Benchmark, if it's your 3rd try, you're just out of luck. So, but yeah, they're timed in the sense that once you start it, you need to complete it. And but if in 15 minutes, it'll shut itself down with no activity on there. All right. Looks good. Well, I hope, I know we're going to get, it usually shuts off in no warning. So if it does that, we're gone. But I just want to welcome everybody, and please, in summary on the very first 2 important points, concentrate on the content and not the grade, because if we concentrate on the content, the grade will be there. Read the announcements in detail and use the templates, and take the stuff that I send you and put into a portfolio, because that will help you down. There are things in the stat book. There are the list of the 25 symbols. So there are a lot of things in that book that will help you in the long run. But the things that I send you, here's a thing for a successful doctoral student. Here are things that will retard your progress. The do's and the don'ts of a doctoral student or a scholar in the making. So that's what you got to start thinking about, is that you are a scholar in the making. The doctorate degree is considered a scholarly degree. So I think that's, we're getting close to this thing shutting down. I will post this on the probably announcement section of the recording of this. And so you can go back and take a look at it again if there's something that you didn't have, wanted to hear again. So any other questions?
One more thing.
Yeah.
Can you also post instructions on how to utilize Zoom or to set up a Zoom meeting? Because I've never used this technology before, but it seems pretty simple, but I don't want to make any assumptions that I would know how to set one up as the host, if you will.
Well, if you don't buy the package, you get 30 minutes. You get 30 minutes free if you have 3 or more people on there. So you can get on Zoom.com and you can set up a meeting, schedule it. But like I say, it's only 30 minutes. But if you pay $14.95, I don't know, whatever it is, you can get it longer than that. But there are probably some better ones out there that you can get for free. WhatsApp is one where you can have video conference. So you just have to look and see, or just have figure out how to do all this. Zoom is easy. There's different meeting sites that have free things going on. So.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Any other things? All right. Please remember, you're rounding to 2 decimal points. I think I said that in the thing. All right. Even if it's a whole number, if it's 35, you got to put 35.00. Don't change the cents. If it's 125 cents, don't